Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sasha Star. It's Ukrainian show on POT TV, and today my guests are Dr. Jonathan Lockwood. Welcome to the show.
Yes, here I am. Well, thank you,
Oh,
Sasha. Glad to be here as always.
yeah, and of course we have Ivan Kucherenko from Kyiv, Ukraine. Welcome to the show, Ivan.
Hello, Sasha. Hello, Jonathan.
Good.
Glad to be here today with you.
And I've already moved to a new location from Warsaw to Riga, Latvia, and that's
Great
where I am
counteroffensive is
now.
coming.
Fantastic, beautiful place. And I was in Poland. I had a lot of talks with Russian or former Russian people and what they think about all that stuff. I'll tell you more about it. But first, let's start with the movie, Ivan, which you prepared for us.
Sure, let's start with it.
The American government used a Russian asset, a Russian agent, as an interpreter for a high-stakes negotiation about ending the Ukraine war. It sounds crazy, but it happened. In the end of April, Steve Witkoff traveled to Moscow to meet with Putin for the fourth time this year. Now, he chose to go alone. He entered the room at the Kremlin where Putin and two of his advisors were present. And there was only one other person sitting on the other side of the table. It was a woman. Witkoff turned to her, pointed at her, and said, "Interpreter?" She said, "Mm-hmm." He followed with a question, "From the embassy?"
From the embassy. Okay.
Now, let's stop here for a second. The only thing that makes sense here is that he probably thought this was a woman sent by the American embassy as an interpreter. There's one problem with that. The woman that he assumed was his interpreter is not just a Russian government interpreter. We can see her next to important Russian figures such as Lavrov, Medvedev, Putin himself over different years, but she also served as Russia's representative and second secretary to the mission to NATO in Brussels. She also served as an advisor to the Russian delegation to the OPCW, the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons in The Hague. Now, neither of these are pure interpreter jobs. They're much more compatible with being a Russian spy. Not surprisingly, we see her here, right behind the head of Russia's spy agency, Naryshkin. Now, Yulia, that's her real name, interpreted for Witkoff over the course of that meeting. The problem with that is this was not just dinner chit-chat. This was a serious negotiation where the stake was the lives of hundreds and maybe millions of people. An interpreter can influence the negotiation. I work as an interpreter. I know that every word that you say, the way you say it, the sentiment, and the way you look even at the client can convey a message. Now, having a spy for the other side serving as your interpreter is inherently dangerous. And the fact that you accept that signals to the other side that you're at the very least incompetent and at the very worst, a very easy target for deception. And this, unfortunately, happened at the end of April in Moscow. Now, as my friend and colleague from The Spiegel, Fidelis Schmidt, joked, if she really was from the American embassy,
From the embassy. Okay.
the Americans had assets all over the place and they're going places. Unfortunately, that was only a joke. She was an asset, but not an American one. Like and subscribe for more of these videos.
That's that would be really upsetting if it weren't so laughable.
It's both. It's very upsetting. It's laughable. But let me tell you something. I've just discovered in a matter of last few days that there is one incredible obstacle to a peace in Ukraine. One, but very, very, very strong, unmovable obstacle. Let's see what's happened in the last few days. So Trump mentioned that he thinks that Putin got crazy. I think that's what he said, although I heard it in translation and I had to translate it back to English. It might be, it's nothing better than he's crazy.
My assessment is that President Trump is undergoing the same sort of awakening, having his eyes opened in the same manner that former President Jimmy Carter had his eyes opened when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan. At last, both of these men have had their eyes opened as to the true nature of the people they were opposing. And Trump now is said to be so angry that he is considering imposing secondary sanctions and boosting military aid to Ukraine. And all the other Europeans are talking about, yes, and the U.S. is considering lifting all restrictions on Ukrainians' use of military power. They can strike any targets they want. Now, all of this would be a similar sort of reaction to that which Jimmy Carter had against the Soviets in Afghanistan. It's a parallel. Remember what Mark Twain once said, history doesn't repeat itself. It does rhyme, though. And so in this case, Trump has had his paradigm shattered. He has had his view of how to do things broken. And so now, reacting out of anger and to a certain extent channeling it, he is going to retaliate in the ways that he views best appropriate at his disposal, to punish Putin for having gone crazy on him and acting completely out of the way he thinks leaders ought to act. He doesn't realize fully, he's now starting to realize that there are some people in this world with whom you cannot make deals. You cannot deal with them in the same way that you would with a fellow businessman. And Putin is not a fellow businessman.
Jonathan, what surprises me that he is opposing sanctions, new sanctions against Russia, such as 500% tariffs on countries that are purchasing Russian products like oil or gas or something like that. But I was looking and spent some time at this Lindsey Graham bill for this tariffs. What's interesting is it's not something that you impose certain tariffs and it's impossible if situation changes to remove them. It's absolutely not the case. The nature of the sanction is that as long as behavior of Putin, Russia, whatever, changes, that sanctions could be not even rolled back, but simply stopped to act. So let's see if there is a ceasefire, that sanctions or tariffs, there could be immediately, without any votes, just rolled back. So what is the Trump's risk of imposing the sanction? And as soon as Putin says, okay, Donald, that's fine, there will be a ceasefire, you roll back this tariffs. What's a risk for Trump to do exactly that?
There is really very little risk for President Trump to impose the sanctions and then say, okay, if you're not going to do it the easy way and do the ceasefire and actually cease firing and agree to an armistice, well, then we're going to do it the hard way. If you continue to great, he's got a logic to this. Now, it's anger, but it is channeled anger, and he is trying to use the available means of power to force Putin. He's not quite doing a Winston Churchill yet, but he's getting there.
It's taking too long, in my opinion. He's already past 5 months into his presidency, so he want to spend half of his time of presidency to defend Putin and not to impose sanctions and not to send weapons to Ukraine and not to do all that. Frankly speaking, Jonathan, 81 senators are voting for this new sanctions or tariffs. As there will be a majority of the House for sure. So it's a joint bill, ready for vote. There is no discussions required. It's ready. Mm-hmm. The Senate and the House, they are real representatives of U.S. people. So Trump is going ahead, his own people, his Congress, his Senate, all Europe, exceptionally pathetic. He's going actually against all world. How is that one person can do so? Jonathan, what does it do you think?
He is being convinced. It's very difficult to give up one's own strategic paradigm that you think has worked for you your entire career, and he is being very stubborn about it. But he is coming very reluctantly, slower than Jimmy Carter came to his realization.
Wait a sec. Jimmy Carter was not 6-time bankrupt. He was not convicted criminal. Don't try to even compare Donald Trump to Jimmy Carter.
I can compare those actions. I can compare those actions very easily, Sasha.
Criminal.
I can compare those actions very easily. That is a non sequitur. That
He's
doesn't
doing
follow.
only what's good for Donald Trump. Decreasing the volume is not going to increase the strength of your argument, Sasha. In this case, there is a good historical parallel there, and President Trump, however reluctantly, is being forced to confront the reality of the situation, and he will eventually confront it and allow Ukraine to take its actions. And oh, by the way, before we get too far into it, let's let Ivan show us that amazing video that he wanted to show us. Which that's right. You already shown us one amazing video. I'm hoping he had another one in his hip pocket. But in any case, yeah, doggone it. So in any case, I am still contending that the correlation of forces the Soviets used to like to speak of is steadily shifting in favor of Ukraine. And there are indications, both economic as well as military, that the opportunity is going to present itself for Ukraine to inflict that decisive counterstrike. And I am still... Before we go into counterstrike, I would like to note that all these so-called ceasefire negotiations, they are emboldened Putin to continue and increase his attacks on peaceful population of Ukraine. This is what he is doing, similar to what Hitler wanted to have as a final solution for Jews, but Putin is doing that to Ukrainians. Among them, there are a lot of Jews, by the way, still. So this is what Putin is doing, and Trump, he is attacking Zelensky for saying exactly the same things, that Putin is being emboldened by understanding that there will be no actions whatsoever from United States. So he has nothing to fear. He has a free hand to unleash his Iskanders and the drones and just whatever he still has. And he is doing that. And when Zelensky points to that, exactly what's really happening, Trump became ballistic against Zelensky. Shut up! What you're saying doesn't do any good for your country or so on. Who is Trump to understand what is good for Ukraine and Ukrainian people and what's not? Who is he there to say so? Okay, Ivan, it's your turn, please.
You really, please.
Yeah, gentlemen, it was
your turn with a grenade.
it was great to watch your negotiation. But I agree. I agree with Sasha, and I would like to agree with Jonathan about opportunity for Ukraine and about those magic counter strike which Ukraine can initiate. But we just have to understand one simple thing: the truth is that Ukraine is not able to fight against Russia alone. Ukraine, of course, Ukrainian people are really brave, and all Western analytics said that Ukraine will be defeated in 1 week, and Ukraine managed to defend Kyiv, to defend themselves for a much longer period of time before the Western help started to arrive. But now, when Russia moved their economy to the military production, when Russia is being assisted by Iran, by by China, by North Korea, Ukraine can be successful in this war only with united help from Western allies, not from their division, not from dividing, not from one of them who wants to make business with Putin, but not to confront him and not to impose more severe sanctions, whatever. And now, unfortunately, the United States behavior is like this war is not convenient to Donald Trump, and this war prohibits him from making business with Russia. He sends his great fellow, New York businessman, Steve Witkoff, to Moscow, and who is so confident that he doesn't take anyone with him, and he uses Russian spy actually as the interpreter, as we've seen from this video. This is only one reason, because Donald Trump doesn't consider Putin as his enemy. Donald Trump considers Putin as his business partner. And the only issue why he is not able to do business with Putin is Ukraine. That's why he's so angry on Zelensky, on what he says, what he's doing to actually to defend the rights of Ukraine, to show that evil is there in Moscow. It's not Ukraine who started this war. It's Russia who started this war. It's not war of Zelensky and Biden, what Trump is saying. It's war of Russia, because Russia decided that they will be able in 21st century to invade another war, to do atrocities, to commit war crimes, to conquer by power the territory of the country, which before they failed to conquer in soft political way, when all their pro-Russian politicians actually failed in Ukraine. They at least decided to conquer Ukraine by power. And Zelensky is that person who actually is not allowing Trump to increase his estates even more. You've seen probably those information. New York Times posted that after his starting his term, his stakes already increased by several $1 billion. He's doing great business on his presidential seat. I hope that not all government structures in the United States are completely failed, and one day they will make an estimate and the judgment of what Trump is doing during his presidential term. But he's accepting luxurious gifts from other countries, like a new aircraft worth $400 million. He is starting businesses, real estate businesses in other countries. He's monetizing his presidency pretty well, and he could do it even better by trading with Russia. But he can't trade with Russia. He can't trade with Putin, because Russia is not the sanctions, American sanctions from Russia are not lifted off yet. So what at least he can do in order not to make his future business with Putin more difficult, not to impose new sanctions on Russia, in order for make business more easily. This is his policy, unfortunately, and I think that this policy is pretty wrong. It's not Ukraine who who should win this war on themselves against Russia. It's not
I agree
possible.
with
You're all very smart people, and our audience are smart people. Everyone can understand that Ukraine is not able to win alone this war against Russia. Ukraine will win this war, and Russia can be only defeated by uniting all countries who understand who is right in this war, who is wrong, what is right and what is wrong, who is a victim in this war, and for them to do everything what is possible to punish the invader. Ukraine actually did what is possible. Ukraine signed this mineral deal. Actually, according to this mineral deal, now the help from the United States, the military equipment, weapons, they will be a part of this mineral deal in future. The United States will not give them Ukraine for free. United States will get those money back. The question is, where are these weapons? There is no military help from Donald Trump. Still, Ukraine is luckily Ukraine is still receiving those help which was started by President Biden, but there is no military help from the United States. It's another issue because sending military help to Ukraine will prevent Trump from doing business with Putin in future. Obviously, that. Putin said to Donald Trump's business partner, he's not his representative, he's Donald Trump's business partner, Witkoff in Moscow, using the services of Russian spy as interpreter.
Which indicates to me that the current Trump administration does not fully appreciate or does not fully understand the nature of their adversary. They are being very ill served by the people that are supposed to be experts on Russia. And they're either unwilling or unable to understand the true nature of nature.
I think unwilling, Jonathan. They're unwilling because they, like in that DuckTales movie with Donald, actually the same hero. Not Donald, it was Scrooge McDuck. In that cartoon,
yes.
when there were dollars in his eyes.
Right, dollar signs.
Dollar signs. That's what Trump sees in Russia and in Putin. This is what Witkoff sees in Russia and Putin, and this is what Putin shows them because Putin has experienced spy. Actually, he's a former KGB agent,
learning how to manipulate perceptions. Yes.
Yeah, he got to power by his ability to manipulate people, and he's in power for those decades actually by manipulating people. He knows exactly how to manipulate Donald Trump and his advisors, so-called, his business partners, and what he's doing successfully. If we see the reaction of Donald Trump, he is doing successfully. When Ukraine and Western leaders, Macron, Friedrich Merz, Kirk Starmer, arrived to Kyiv on May 10th, and they announced a united position that Russia should go to immediate unconditional ceasefire starting from May 12th. Or otherwise there will be more sanctions implemented on Russia immediately. Donald Trump and Putin decided to play over them and said, "Oh no ceasefire, but we are ready to start negotiations." Donald Trump assisted Putin in this. He said, "Okay, great, negotiations. No sanctions, no ceasefire, just negotiations." What Trump is, or what Putin is wanted to achieve, he achieved actually, and Trump assisted him in it. So he reckoned the united voice of Europe, of Ukraine, in order to make his business with Putin future business easier. And Ukraine is not allowing him, and Zelensky especially is not allowing him just to exit from this war, just to lift off sanctions from Russia and to start all those great projects in Alaska or Antarctica, Arctica, whatever, what Putin, Siberia, whatever what Putin offered him.
Yeah, but President Trump still cannot overcome the stance of the European Union and the European allies, who said they are imposing sanctions, and they will not lift those sanctions until Russia has completely withdrawn from Ukraine. I mean, Crimea, that's Crimea, and the eastern provinces, oblasts of Ukraine. And so with that in mind, now the other European leaders we have to consider are also putting pressure, diplomatic pressure behind the scenes, in all likelihood, trying to say, look, you are dealing with a person with whom a deal, as you conceive it, cannot be made. They do not believe in compromise in the sense that we understand it. So it is still an ongoing struggle of wills, a struggle of perceptions. And there is slow but incremental progress in favor of eventual united front against Russia, I contend. And this is going to eventually result in Russia. It's now a contest between Russia's growing exhaustion, its growing inability to continue military operations, economically, because they have, by a number of Western observers, only a few months left of monetary reserves, in addition to the considerable damage that has already been done to Russia's population we're approaching the 1 million mark in casualties, and which will only increase. No matter what China or North Korea supply Russia with in terms of manpower, it's not going to be as high quality of manpower as the Russians had at the beginning of the war. If anything, it's going to be less. The morale is not going to be greater. The will to fight, the will to continue to assist Russia in a war of aggression against Ukraine, that's not going to increase. And if the West gives Ukraine complete and unrestricted permission to strike deep into Russia with all of its available assets, then the pressure will again become even worse for Russia, and its casualties will go ever higher, and the eventual damage to it. I would say that the one big external factor that I am counting on and praying for, I must admit, is for divine intervention, for God to take Putin out of the picture with his death.
Or Trump, one of two. That would
well, the question. Either one would have a decisive impact, but not necessarily what you might think.
I'd like to tell you something that I understand Trump's frustration with Zelensky. If Ivan is right, that's the only obstacle on the Trump's plan to get friendly with Russia and have businesses with Putin and all that stuff, I'm surprised that Winston Churchill never thought about having business with Hitler. Maybe they could do fantastic business together. I'm surprised he didn't do it, but that's
there was a scene in the movie The Battle of Britain, in a scene where Hitler's representative, he's meeting with Churchill's representative in Switzerland, and he says the Führer offers guarantees, and the response of the British representative was, our experience has been that Hitler's guarantees guarantee nothing. And so
it was not about Churchill, actually. It was about Chamberlain, who tried to do business with Hitler. He wanted
peace for our time. Yeah, came out.
And in future they led to that Hitler started to bombard Great Britain. Actually, it shows what you achieve as the result by trying to do business with a dictator and a war criminal.
Yeah,
actually.
No, I agree. That you eventually, if you pay attention to the lessons of history, you eventually learn. And it just depends on how high a price you have to pay in order to learn that lesson. President Trump will eventually.
Churchill
Yes.
said about Americans that they are always choosing the right way after trying all the wrong ways.
Yeah,
He said
that's
that.
true.
Now, to
That's-
summarize and to finish out today's program, I'd like to mention that to solve for Trump Ukrainian problem, there had to be one of two things. One is the peaceful negotiations, which Trump said it will do in 24 hours, then in 3 months, maybe in 6 months, maybe never. It looks to me that Trump already realized he cannot do it. It's far more complicated, and it's not up to his task. He's not equipped. The nature just he failed to provide him with the needed intellect, willpower, understanding, certain qualities that he just doesn't possess. It's
He's
easy
trying to apply a business solution
Yeah,
to a military, a business solution to a
He
military.
knows how to do 6 bankruptcies. He knows how to become convicted felon, conman. He knows all that. He's doing that terrific. Okay, this is well beyond his capability. So there is a second way to do it. Is a capitulation of Ukraine, and all the issue is solved. And everything what Trump did so far is to encourage capitulation of Ukraine. That's where he is. And Europeans, I spoke to few people in Warsaw and here in Riga, Latvia, they all convince whoever I spoke to that all Trump is trying to do is to make Ukraine to capitulate, get it on its knees. So the Putin, and I believe that there is a great coordination between what Putin is doing and what Trump is saying. It's all well orchestrated show. And Europeans are sick and tired of this bullshit. And I think American people will rise, and their representatives in Senate and House, they will rise against these atrocities, what are happening right now. The next program, a week from now, I will tell you about treasonous activities of what happened with his trip to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Emirates, and artificial intelligence, and a lot of things what we don't know about it, but we'll find out. Thank you so much for today's program. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and we'll meet a week from now. In that, I would like to say, have a great week. Slava Ukraini. Glory to Ukraine.
God bless America.
Yes.
Героям слава. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Very much. Bye-bye, everybody.